Hey everybody, Edo here, and I am excited today because I have Dan Letzring on the line or on Skype. Say hello, Dan.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
And if you don't know Dan, Dan is founder, owner of Letiman Games and has done quite a number of Kickstarters. I think in 5 or 6 now.
Yeah,
Um,
so I think I'm a seven-time creator now.
Yeah, so that's a lot. And we'll get to it eventually, but you have another Kickstarter coming up in a few weeks, which is Neverland something or other. What is it called?
Yep, the Neverland Rescue. Yep,
Neverland Rescue. So, but we'll circle back to this in a second. Starting
sure.
at the beginning, though, I mean, I believe I've played a number of your games, but first got in contact with you around Dino Dude Ranch, right? Which
Yep, that
uh,
was really one of my first big games I was doing, and that one, yeah, I sent to you. You were starting your review channel around then. I think Ito's.
Yeah, that was a pretty early Kickstarter. I don't think it was. I want to say Lanterns might have been the first one I did. I think, but that was
Mhm.
within the first 10 Kickstarter ones I did previous. I think.
Yeah, I remember you were just starting the reviews, and you just had this passion for what you did. So I reached out to you, and yeah, we connected from there, and I've known you, I think, ever since.
Yeah, yeah. Well, which is
So
great. But
yeah,
so, just on this channel, I like to talk to other Kickstarter creators and designers and publishers and all the like. And you did some of your original stuff, and then you're working with a lot of different designers now, and you're expanding on your art and your product weight and all that stuff. Like coming, Groves most recently, which is behind me. I've actually played it. I played a prototype copy, but didn't get a review copy. I'm not going to forget that because I liked it.
No, I
But
sent it for you. You were part of the post-production wave of reviews.
I'm giving you
You
a hard
gave me
time.
a really hard time
don't,
about that. That was
don't worry about it.
really
But
funny.
I'm gonna probably do an unboxing and then play it, and then I'll do a review of it.
Great.
Um, and then with Neverland, sort of even pushing it further in terms of that, I've seen the art for that game. It looks fantastic. So, but starting at the beginning, what's your sort of origin story? How did you get into it? How did you become? How did you move into Dino Dude Ranch?
So it really started, I was playing a lot of games and kind of designing for fun. And I think it really started, I played Flux, and it made me feel like, so I was going to grad school at the time, and there was a lot of, just when you're in grad school, there's a lot of miserable feelings and being upset, and you have your bosses coming down on you. And we were all going through the same kind of awfulness, and I wanted to make a card game based on that experience. So it really all started with my first card game based on going to grad school.
And what did you
And
study? Just out of curiosity.
I got my PhD in biophysics.
All right,
And
that has a lot to do with board games.
yeah, yeah, right. And so, yes, I was a physics major in biophysics after that. And yeah, very unrelated field, but I'm happy doing what I do. Um, and so, yeah, so I did that. And I really have a big strong affinity for like family games and playing games with your kids that aren't just I mean everyone, as everyone says, that aren't Candyland or Shoots and Ladders and stuff like that. And so I designed Dino Dude Ranch because of that. There was a contest at the Game Crafter at the time for the Fifth Street Games Challenge, and that kind of inspired me to work hard on that, finish it, and get it going. And that's where that all started. And kind of once you really start getting knee deep into it, you just can't stop.
And and so you did Dino Dude Ranch, and then what was the next one after that again?
So after that was Dirigible Disaster. That was a game designed by someone else. That was a game by Daniel Greck. So that was the first game I signed by someone that I didn't design.
And then the Gadgeteers was after that, right? And
Yep.
was that you again, or was that with another person as
Yep,
well?
that was a co-design. I did a lot of the work, and then I kind of didn't have time to do a lot, so I gave it to Michael Kofer, who does a lot of my graphic design, and we worked on that together and brought that to life. I wanted like a more small box, quick 20-minute game, and so that was where that kind of all started. And all of them were kind of trying to fill holes in things I wanted to see for my brand, and so I wanted a small $20 game because everything else before that was like a medium-sized $30 game, and then after that, I really wanted to get into a bigger game that was a worker placement. I really wanted a worker placement, and that's kind of where the idea initially of Groves was born.
Well, and so let's talk about a couple of those things because I think it's an area that a lot of different creators sort of stumble through or upon. which has to do with, when you move or shift from saying, well, I'm making games that I want to make, that I'm going to design, and Kickstarter is this avenue for me to do that, to saying, well, no, I want to find another designer or fill a gap, as you said. How did you from the beginning think that you'd be working with other designers? When did you come to the conclusion that you wanted to pull other people in to work on stuff?
So I think it was after Dino Dude Ranch, I knew I liked the business end of it, right? So that's kind of where you have to draw the line. Do you like doing the business end of being a publisher versus just a designer, right? And I knew that I really loved all the business end of it, and I wanted to keep pursuing it. So then you get into the kind of the field of, staying relevant, putting out a continued schedule of releases, even if it's not extremely frequent. It's like this steady schedule. And I knew I wasn't designing, in developing my own games enough to keep up with that, in that I found a game. So Dirigible Disaster, although it's very different gameplay wise, size and cost and MSRP and manufacturing cost was almost the same as Dino Dude Ranch.
Excuse me.
And so I thought, God bless you. And so it was very similar to Dino Dude Ranch in its packaging and size and everything. So I thought it was a perfect fit for my line because it was right around what I was doing. So I reached out to the designer to kind of fill my line while I was figuring out what I was going to design next. And then Gadgeteers is what I was working on, and where I was working on publishing, I didn't have time to finish it, which is why I ended up co-designing it. And, it just kind of all fell from there. Was after Dino Dude Ranch, I knew I wanted to keep pursuing it, and I had to find ways to, just keep growing my company and keeping it relevant and moving forward while I was going through it.
And so, in all the ways you're talking about it, I mean, you're talking about it like somebody who's thinking about their business in terms of your slate and your lineup of games, in terms of your brand and your box. But even to sort of, again, just for the benefit of people who are new to it and creative, at what point did you start saying my brand? And what point did you start thinking about your slate of games? I mean, was that just after doing the first one and saying I need to do something else, or did you start out, with a 5-year business model and lay it all out?
No, so with Dino Dude Ranch, I was just working hard to bring that to life. I was very excited about it and wanting to, make it a thing. And I knew I wanted to do it because I wanted to, like I said, do the business end of it. But I really felt like it was, once I was doing Dirigible Disaster and I was planning it and making it, again, planning the same box size, the same layout for the way the box looks, right, and everything. And I was like, okay, this is my line. And once I had those two, I was like, okay, here's my brand. And I could really see what I was doing. And that's when I kind of sat down and was like, okay, I needed like a real, like you said, 5-year plan, what I'm doing. And it wasn't necessarily a 5-year plan, but it was like a 2 to 3 year plan. What am I doing over the next 2 years? Because if I'm going to do this, I got to have an idea of where I'm going with this.
For sure. And so that actually brings me, I understand, Groves is one of your most successful Kickstarters so far. And when I looked at Groves, it looked, solid design by Steve, or Steve, right? Steven.
He goes by Steven, I think.
Steven,
yeah.
man, I've butchered his name on both sides.
Sometimes I just call him Steve for fun. He's always just like, it's Steven.
It's Steven.
He always corrects me.
It was funny. I had Steven and Danny on, and I was so focused on getting Steven's last name right that I messed up Danny's last name.
They're a great duo too.
Yeah,
the two of them.
Sure.
We trade PMPs all the time and always play test, and they're fantastic. And Steven and Danny both have had a solid line of games released in the last few years. The two of them have just
the
knocking it out of the
marketplace
park.
is super hungry, or the publishers are super hungry for competent design and solid, great design. But so looking at that game though, what struck me about it, whereas I like the art in Dino Dude Ranch, but it's sort of got its own vibe to it, and Gadgeteers has got some cool things and concepts going on, but it wasn't quite that cohesive look and feel of Groves. And when I look at Groves, I'm like, oh, this person said, we want pretty Groves and fairies, and this is going to be this audience, and we're going to make sure it looks lush. Like, the art direction and product marketing is much higher in that. And so was that sort of conscious? Did you fall on that? How did you make that transition?
Yeah, so originally, so Steven had been pitching me games for a while, and we just never jived on something that worked for me and him together. And then he sent me one game that inspired a thought that I was like, well, why don't we work on? And it started as a Western town builder,
Oh,
really. And we were working on it, and sitting there as a publisher, I'm like, I mean, another Western town builder. I'm like, I just didn't get excited over it. Every Western game is a town builder, and it didn't really have an exciting draw to it. And once we came up with this theme, and I knew I had been seeing Nolan's work, right? Nolan Nasser is the art
oh, sure,
illustrator on
sure.
Groves, and his landscapes were beautiful. I was like, we need to work landscapes into this, and we need to, yeah. I mean, he just killed it with the trees and the beautiful mountains in the background and the blowing leaves and the wind. And so we started talking about like the four seasons, and it doesn't have seasons in the game, but we wanted the imagery of the four
Yeah.
seasons. And then my wife was reading some Fae books at the time, and I was like, well, if we had these elemental Faes that were linked to the land, and they could gain these extra additional powers or things, and that's kind of how the whole idea worked. And so, yeah, it really kind of
And
really.
actually, I wasn't going to open it because I was going to do an unboxing, but I guess this is going to count as the unboxing. Just because I know what's inside of it, and just I think it speaks to what you're talking about. Let me see if you can see it really nicely on the cover there. But then here's all
Yeah, we had two
the
different mashups of the four seasons,
yeah,
and we couldn't decide which one we liked, so we
the
put one on the
fairies.
box and one on the rule book.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
just really wonderful look here. And oh, a nice insert by the way.
Oh, thank
Really
you.
nice production value. Got the gems, the bag. See, really nice insert. Um,
Yeah, that came out really well. We were happy with that for sure.
but it really, again, this is really not to disparage the other games, but this is a nice, a solid notch up
Sure.
in terms of the sort of execution and production value. I will give you some on-air feedback. You need to do better backs of boxes. This box back is underserving everything that's inside of it, sir.
Okay,
Kindly.
I will take that. Yes,
All right, but
into
anyway,
consideration.
but so you made that leap and you pushed it, and it seems like that has proven promising for you because it was successful. But again, looking at your next title, it seems like you've continued on that trend, right?
Sure. Yeah. Well, so someone I've been wanting to work with a long time, Scott Almes. We've been talking a long time, and we finally again meshed on a project that we were both really excited about. And so I knew we were bringing this to life, and it's he's a big name, and we need big art to go with that. And so Nolan's not doing freelance anymore. I would love to work with him again. He's got his own projects going now, and Scott and I have, I mean, for years been talking about Jackie Davis and both saying we've always wanted to work with her. And so again, the theme on this game was actually completely different, and it was originally the Boston Tea Party, and that's kind of
Okay.
how we connected. Yeah, it was very, very different. And so one person was playing trying to throw the tea in the harbor, and the other one was the captain of the guard trying to stop them from doing it. But we realized that theme wouldn't connect with a lot of people, and we both wanted to work with Jackie. So we're like, what? She's fairy tale style. She has this great children's lit style that she does, and she does beautiful colors. Let's see how we can work that in. And we explored a few themes. And once we really got into Neverland, we knew that this would be a big thing with him, with her, with everything. We could put together a beautiful product.
Well, and you get, one of the things you'll find, which is, not in any way the only reason they were successful, but one of the things that the Grim Forest guys find is, when you tap into these, um, you know, ancient brands, right? These
Sure.
long-standing narratives that people have a history with through Disney or other, through literature and everything. You bring not only the art, not only the game, but you also bring that audience in and engage them. So
Yeah,
hopefully
that's
it's a,
sure.
a really large campaign for you guys in the coming weeks.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping. So actually, right now is the crazy time. We have about 1 month, well, a little over a month to launch, and so now is where we have to buckle down and get everything ready. Actually, I have a copy right here. I'm getting ready to send the reviewer copies out this week, and so we're just doing some last minute touch up on the rules to print them and put in them. But everything else is done and ready. It's just we're making sure we've been doing blind play tests and adjusting things in the rules to make
Sure.
them perfect. So
Yeah. Well, and I mean, Scott's a pro, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. And just for everyone watching, even though you said a month, this is probably going to come out in 2 weeks. It's probably less than a month.
That's true. Yes, sorry. We even talked about that before.
Do you have a launch date, just so there's no confusion? Do you have a launch date?
Yes, May 8th is the
May
plan.
8th. So whatever date is when you're watching this, May 8th is when this starts.
That's right, yep. And so we're kicking in a high gear now because I mean, you know how this goes. The last month is getting the page ready and the marketing ready and everything else. And so we're scrambling and doing the best we can to get everything ready.
And so right now, how many Kickstarters are you doing a year?
So I do 2 a year every year, and I always say this is going to be the year I'm going to do more. And then, I mean, Neverland I wanted to launch earlier in the year, and just, things weren't ready, and we weren't going to rush it or anything like that. So now May makes it harder to get 3 in. We have a couple projects we're working on that we may get 3 in this year, but yeah, it's about 2. We're hoping for 3.
Cool. We'll be overlapping a little bit. Herbaceous Sprouts is going to launch end of May.
Okay.
So unless you're doing are you doing? How long is your campaign going to be?
I'm still deciding. So my last one I did was 3 weeks, and I think you did a 3-week one right around, or you did a 2-week one.
I did a 2-week. Sunset Over Water was a super aggressive 2-week campaign.
Yeah, and so I've been debating 3 weeks, but I have it right now set to 4 weeks. And so every day I go back and forth the pros and cons. You know how, I mean, I want to hit all the news cycles and be there for a full month, but at the same time, that 3-week ones are nice. They're really, they cut a lot of the lag out. And you're so stressed.
In certain ways, I mean, there was a lot I liked about doing it in 2 weeks, but I mean, it depends. I don't know if I'm going to do it again, but it does depend on what you're going for and overall how confident you are. And so, so cool, and when you think about it now, you didn't exactly say it. Are you have a career? This is still a hobby, or is this full time?
Yeah, no. So I have a career outside of this. I'm a firearms examiner at a crime lab, and then I do this. I mean, so my wife and I work opposite schedules, so I have a lot of free nights and weekends when she's at work, and that's where most nights and weekends I do the bulk of my work for this.
Cool. I mean, not cool that you guys have opposite schedules, but cool that you're using the time for something creative.
Right, yeah. No, it's hard, but yeah, we both have our own creative outlets that we do to make, it work.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you're building your brand now. Just for those sort of, how are you in retail? Are you in retail? Are somebody carrying you?
I am in retail, but it's limited. So I have a few smaller distributors I work with, and then a few, retailers who back me. I mean, Groves had, I think it was almost 20 retailers who backed it. I think it was 18 or somewhere around there, or it might have been 12 to 15, something like that. But there was a couple retailers back in the campaign, and then a few small distributors and, things of that nature. So it's in retail, but it's limited, and then I sell on my site and Amazon as well.
Got it. And I mean, are you looking to grow in retail, or are you not really that interested? You want to focus on
I am. I reach out, and I've had a few decent releases, and they've rated pretty well on BGG. So hopefully, at some point, I just kind of burst through that.
I think
ceiling. I don't know.
Well, it can be tough. I mean, I think that Groves probably has some nice potential there, but certainly Neverland will, because it's a net recognized brand, right? Independent of your brand.
And so, I think part of the problem too is I haven't, just with, again, me and my wife's opposite schedules, it's hard for me to get to conventions and really network in person, which I think has a lot of value for something like this.
Sure.
So I'm going to Proto ATL this next month. I'm hoping to, PSI, it's at their headquarters, and there's a couple of people going, a lot of big publishers going actually. So Renegade's going to be there, and Gale Force 9 and Gray Fox Games, and there's a lot of people there that'll be good to gain insight from and talk to, and again, it's at PSI's headquarters. So hopefully I can at least make some connections that can push me in the right direction or help me, through what I need to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I would, if you don't, make sure you have a copy of Neverland to have on you, and Groves, and I think you could have that conversation with PSI, and see if they would pick you up. I was fortunate in that I sort of was introduced to Aldo at Impressions pretty early. And so it was a little bit before things got so crazy that even the small guys are like, our warehouses are full.
Well, that's the problem. Every time, and they're super nice, right? So I talk to them every campaign, and months in advance, and every time it's like, well, we're full, but reach out to us the next one. And it's not like they tell you now, don't contact me or whatever. They always say like, call me back and we'll see what we can do. But it's always like, 3,500 games came out last year or something crazy like that. And
no, it's tough. But I think more players are going to enter that space because it's underserved. There's a demand. There's also a lot more, Amazon and direct to backers type of selling from your own site, right? You can do what
Sure.
Well, what's Tim Fowers is sort of the trailblazer, not really the trailblazer, but he's sort of the guy known for keeping it only to buy from him. What's the name of his company? Fowers Games, maybe. I think.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I know.
It might be something as simple as that. I don't know. Anyway, no big deal. He's a great guy. Anyway, I got hardback. He does boxes where I can't even see the company on the box. Cool, man. Well, as somebody who's been at this for a number of years and a number of campaigns, is growing, but still, relatively small, working at brick by brick, game by game. What sort of advice would you have to new creators entering the scene today?
Oh, man. Well, so I guess new creators entering today, there's a lot, right? There's one is have as final a product as you can, right? So when I started my game, I didn't have all the artwork done. And for Dino Dude Ranch, I had about half of it done. And I paid for the rest after the campaign. That wouldn't fly today at all. That's only 4 years ago, I think, right? So, have the game complete and done. Like you said, I didn't really have a plan at that time for what I was planning. And I tell people that now, too. There's a huge difference, right, between publishing and designing in that there's a lot that comes with being the publisher outside of the campaign and making your brand and selling your games and being a business and registering that business and social media presence. And there's just a world of things that you need to be ready to take on if that's what you want to do. And if not, find out. I think the one good thing now, too, with all these games coming out, there are a lot of small publishers, right? So, maybe if you have a design and it's hard to pitch to some of the big companies because they already have a line of games for the next 2 or 3 years, there's a lot of small publishers out there now. There's more and more every month. And,
I always find it interesting when I see speed dating, and I'm like, that guy just did his first Kickstarter 3 weeks ago. What's going on? And he's picking up new games, right? There's a lot of small, and I think there's pros and cons. Pros being that they'll give you attention and be interested and invest in your in your design or whatever. Cons being that they may not have as much experience as
exactly
as you'd have otherwise. Yeah.
But I think having a finished good design, a total package, right? The gameplay and the artwork done and ready to go. And then, I think just working hard at it, right? So that's what I've been doing is right now I'm at the point where my games self-sustain each other. And, my first game I had to invest into to get the art done. It was my first game. But now all my games kind of roll into the next one. And, I haven't broken into retail, but it doesn't mean that we're not like a very self-lubricating system that just kind of flows and, it's working and everyone has gotten bigger and better. And with the last ones, we were able to buy a lot of extra product to be able to sell and move at this point and get better margins and, everything so that hopefully, every year we're just getting bigger and better so that when we do break through, we're ready for it and we can just keep moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a big part of it. For a long time, a Liftoff I lost money on, so for other reasons, but I lost a little money on Liftoff. But then from there, having products that make enough money to pay for themselves and then take the $5,000 or whatever, 2, 4, 5, 8, you put up front and then have that money again on the opposite side to put towards the next one and pay for events and things like that. It really, for me at least, wasn't. Herbaceous was the first game that did well to the extent that suddenly, whatever that sitting bank account that was sort of the flow between it was suddenly like a bigger bank account number. It's like,
Sure.
oh, Cool. I can make
What are
them.
you on your fourth print now?
Third, but
Third.
they're not huge. I mean, yeah, it's right now. Herbaceous is probably about 10,000 copies in the wild. So,
That's, I mean,
yeah.
that's great though, and it's a great game. I
Oh,
played it for the first time 2 months ago or 3 months ago, and we had a blast. It was great.
awesome. Well,
So
thank you. And yeah,
yeah,
though, but most of my other stuff, not Sunset Over Water did really well, and so I did a good big starter for that. But like when you think about legendary Liftoff or Gem Pack Cards or Siblings Trouble, those were all games that had a 1,500 unit, 1,700 unit. I don't remember all the numbers. Maybe 2,000.
sure.
I think Gem Pack Cards. I want to say I printed 1,500 or 1,000 of them, and
Yeah.
they did well and they sold out and recouped, but it was sort of hard. The volume, the success wasn't enough to say, well, I'm going to go print some more of those.
Well, that's what happened with Dino Duderich too. I printed about 1,000 and sold out fast actually, and I didn't reprint for over a year because it sold out fast. But I had to be sure that reprinting was a smart idea,
Sure.
right? And so I waited till one, we had enough extra money that if we did the reprint, we could actually put some money into it. And then two, I was still that year and a half later getting requests for it. Right. So I was like, okay, I know people want this still. Like it's not something that's already a year later and I haven't been selling it. People are asking for it, right? So that's when I knew, okay, I reprint that along with the expansion. So I had an expansion to kind of go with it. And luckily everyone's been saying like the expansion just makes the game better and it's exactly what an expansion should be. So that all really worked well, but I wouldn't have done it if I didn't have the expand. There were a lot of factors.
Oh
why
yeah,
we chose
yeah.
to do it.
My lift. Speaking about Liftoff again, a game which was just really underwater in terms of cost of components to retail,
Yeah.
right? Like, and it's the kind of thing. It's like, yeah, I could put $20,000 towards making $23,000, but that's a huge risk if I don't.
Right.
And so what I figured out a way to do sort of a second deluxe edition combo pack, which is the original game with the expansion, but in a way that I can get anyone who backed the original can get an upgrade pack to put it in. I've been working through all this stuff, so probably later this year, if everything goes well, or maybe next, have a campaign for that, which will be essentially the reprint campaign, but it won't be with Panda anymore. It'll be with Watts because Panda's expensive, and that's why I couldn't reprint the other one in the first place.
Sure.
And get to the point where I can bring that title back because it's a game. I mean, it's not like I'm getting an email a day, but I still hear about it and people enjoy it, and I'd like to see it on the market. I think it still has a lot of fun in there. It's just it can be tough to find the margin and the just not the revenue, just the resources to take on the risk of a republishing or a reprinting rather.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing too, right? Like we both did this, and I think a lot of people don't always do this, is playing it smart and not over ordering, right? If you order 2,000 extra copies that you're not going to sell, and you sit on 2,000 copies that you paid for, even though you got your cost per unit down, if you're not selling them, you're losing money. And so I started small in what I thought I felt confident in selling, and I sold out fast, which, maybe I should have ordered more, but I didn't lose money, right? I didn't, as my first title, you don't know what you're going to do. You don't know what's going to go into retail. You don't know what's going to sell. And
no, I agree with you. It's super important. And I still feel that way. I didn't. Legendary Creatures did well, but it didn't do incredible. So I printed a modest amount. We'll see how it does, and if it sells out, we'll print some more. But went a little heavier on the Sunset Over Water bet, but we'll see. But part of it too is now that I've been doing this, Pencil First Games is coming on 5 years this summer, and I know that I'm still going to be around in a year or 2 years.
Sure.
That it, like, I know I have a little bit more time than I would have thought to sell things. Like, if with Liftoff, when I didn't want to print the extra 2,000 copies, if I had known in my head, oh, my company's still going to be selling games 5 years later.
5 years, yeah.
I probably would have been like, you know what, I'll eventually sell those. But that's hard when you're starting, right? You don't know.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I think when you're starting, you kind of have to not be super conservative, but conservative enough that yeah, you're not going to get stuck with extra games. You're not going to, I mean, basically be one and done, right? Invest everything you have into your first print run, never sell it, and then you can't afford art for your next game or marketing, for your next game, and sinking your ship with, overestimating.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, good sir. It's been a great chat. We just hit the 30-minute mark.
Okay.
Let me leave you to your evening, and I know it's even later there.
Yeah, it's
you're on the East
here.
Coast, right? So it's like
Yeah,
it's almost
11:30 here. I got to go to bed.
Yeah. Got to wake up early. But thanks for being on and sharing, and certainly best of luck with Neverland. What's the second part? Neverland what?
Rescue.
Neverland Rescue, May 8th.
Yep.
I remember the date.
Yep. And you'll be getting the game in about a week. You are reviewing it, so.
I'm looking. I mean, I love this theme, and I love the art, and I love the designer. So, and you do a great job on publishing. So that's a good combo to me. But
Cool.
and thanks everyone for watching.
All right, thanks for having me. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist, League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But most importantly, play some great games. Thanks.